Hello, and welcome to the Sanibel Captiva Guide podcast. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our next guest, one of the most knowledgeable island people we know, Charles LeBuff. Welcome, Charles.
Well, thank you very much.
Howdy.
It's been a roundabout way of getting here.
Yes. We finally got you.
So we've been in touch for Laurie more particularly for a long time, and during COVID and all the rest of it, and probably wasn't the best time to get together. But it's finally happening. You're here, so thank you and welcome.
And
You made our day.
I'm fangirling right now.
Oh God!
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
That's fantastic. So, tell us a little bit about your background on the island, Charles, for those that might not know you, or tell us early days and through your history on the island.
Okay, I first came to Sanibel back in 1952. I was living in Bonita Springs with my family, my parents, and I met a young guy from Estero. We rode the school bus together between Bonita Springs and Fort Myers. And one night we were out on the beach at Bonita Beach, and I happened to see a light off on the horizon. So I said, "Don, what is that light?" He said, "Well, that's the Sanibel light. It's a lighthouse." And I loved lighthouses. I'd studied them as a kid, part of our curriculum, learning about the Boston Lighthouse. I was from the outskirts of Boston, so we neither one of us had a driver's license. So he borrowed his mother's car on a Saturday, and we drove to Punta Rassa and got on the ferry, came over to Sanibel and drove all around exploring. We went shelling, and I strolled around the lighthouse, and I had a good impression of the island. And I was telling your wife that earlier that I was attending school with two kids from Sanibel, Ralph Woodring, who is still on the island, and Jim Pickens, who just recently left. So to enhance my interest in Sanibel, every so often they'd announce in the morning that the Sanibel school bus was late again. So Sanibel sort of caught me in between the name, rather unique name, and the lighthouse is what drew me here the first time.
Right.
And little did I know that just 4 years later, I'd become an employee of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service at their Red Tide Field Station in Naples. And part of my job was to fly in an aircraft with Tommy Wood, who was the manager of then Sanibel National Wildlife Refuge. And I'd come back to Sanibel and sat down in Tarpon Bay in the aircraft, and he lived part of the time in a house at the very end of Woodring Point. I'd go in and have coffee and cookies and take a break and then fly the rest of our routine flight.
Right, so a seaplane, obviously.
A seaplane, yeah. It was that first aircraft I flew in. Well, the first was I forgot, the second was a Piper Tri-Pacer.
Okay.
And then the government bought him a Piper Super Cub. And he had the Super Cub when I moved here permanently.
Right.
Wow.
So that got me to Sanibel.
Yeah.
And then I'd work with him during the week, fly to collection stations. And apparently my work ethic impressed him. And meantime, the Red Tide Lab closed and moved to St. Petersburg, and I didn't want to go to St. Pete. And I stayed put in Naples, and then one day he called and offered me a position on Sanibel. And my wife was expecting our first child, and I had to postpone it. But I moved to Sanibel in late December 1958. I started work at Sanibel National Wildlife Refuge the first week of January '59.
Wow. And what was your job to be?
I was basically his assistant.
Okay.
It was all types of refuge work, wildlife census, maintenance of the lighthouse buildings, patrol work, law enforcement.
Law enforcement too?
Law enforcement
so
too.
You wore many hats?
Yeah, we did. In the old days, Fish and Wildlife Service employees did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's a little bit different. The positions are more specific.
Mm.
Right.
How many people were on the island when you moved?
Approximately 400.
400.
People. There were only probably a half dozen couples our age, and Tommy's wife threw a tea party for my wife so she could meet the
right, the other
girls.
Right.
And I think they're all gone now.
Yeah. So this is Pre-Causeway. The only way to get to the island would be
by ferry,
or if you had your own boat, I'm guessing.
Or an airplane.
Or the seaplane.
Airport.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
There was a airport on the island too. So.
Yeah, right opposite Cassia-Bell. It got shut down. When was it shut down?
I think it was shut down in 78.
Okay, late 70s. Yeah, so there was an accident at the end of it.
There was an accident.
Yeah, a little bit short, the runway.
Yeah, it's at Point Sano. It careened into Point Sano's property.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah. What happened?
And it's now actually from the air you can actually still see it. It's actually now the development. It's called Butter Knife, and it's if you look at it, it's the exact shape of a runway.
Right.
Yeah.
2,500 feet, I believe.
Is that really? Was it 2,500?
Sod airstrip.
Right.
Wow.
So you moved straight into one of the cottages at the Lighthouse, which are still in existence today. So if you're facing, I guess, with your back to the water, which building were you in?
Would be the right-hand building.
Okay.
Easternmost.
Easternmost building.
Yeah, that was quarters 2.
Okay.
The original Lighthouse buildings.
Yeah.
So you lived there on your own, or with your wife and
My wife and daughter,
and your daughter,
and then 3 years later, a son came along.
Okay.
And a baby. I mean, she was newborn. Your daughter.
Our daughter was 11 weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
What was your first impression when you?
Well, the house was very, very run down. The inside.
Was it really?
We had to furnish it. We'd just been married a little over a year, and we had to buy furniture and appliances. It was pretty hard.
Really?
To start out.
Who had lived in it before, or had it just sat empty?
Before we moved in, there was a family called the Stalins that rented the house, and before that, there was employees from the Florida Department of Health doing mosquito research.
Really?
So how long did you spend in that Lighthouse building?
Moved in December 58, moved out in July of 79.
58.
So
Wow.
just shy of, I guess, 21 years, 22 years.
Wow.
Jeez.
And what was it like? Obviously, the sun rises to die for, and what a perfect location if you like the beach.
If you get up that early.
If you get up that early.
Yeah.
So do you have any trips to the top of the lighthouse?
Oh, many, yeah.
Did you?
It was serviced by 2 Coast Guardsmen stationed in Fort Myers, and they'd come over periodically to check the light and then also to refuel the acetylene. So I was assigned to assist them in different things, acetylene tank replacement, and then after Donner, I had to assist in replacing some of the storm panes, the big windows up top, and then I assisted in the electrification and the change out of the lens.
So when did it become electrified?
63.
63. So the acetylene, when it ran off of that, how often would that need replenishing? It must have been...
There were 200-pound cylinders. I believe they had 6 cylinders, 3 in use and 3 on a standby manifold in case something happened. And they changed them out about every 6 months.
Oh, wow, it lasted that long. And why acetylene? Just lots brighter, or...?
It was a new technology in the 20s, and Sanibel was one of the first lighthouses equipped with the acetylene burner.
Oh, okay.
And if you want to dive more into the history of the lighthouse, Charles, you've written an entire book just about the Sanibel Lighthouse, and fascinating. When was it built? 1884, I believe?
1884.
It was put there, and at that time
and
it was
still shining.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
What does the maintenance of the lighthouse look like now? Who runs it? Who looks after it?
The Coast Guard still maintains the lighthouse.
Even though
still
Sanibel owns it?
The Sanibel owns it, and Sanibel, I believe, is responsible for the maintenance. They had to spend nearly $250,000 to refinish it after they were given it.
I read that they had a bit of a sticker shock after they purchased it.
Terrible.
Yeah, they purchased it for $1 and then wound up with a maintenance bill that was...
That's when the beach parking fees increase.
Is that right?
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Oh,
yeah.
I guess, which makes sense.
So there's no, if I'm right in understanding, there's no navigational reason for it to be going today, is there? Or they're just keeping it going for aesthetics? Or
No, it's still printed on the light list as a operational light.
Oh, it is? Okay.
And it's there for anyone who cares to use it, but with modern technology, it's not very useful to the boater.
Modern navigators?
Yeah,
no.
modern navigation,
No.
GPS
Right.
takes over.
So were you a boating guy yourself? If you lived right there, did you have a boat yourself?
I did. I had personal boats, and I ran government patrol boats.
Really? And you were a fisherman or sports
I was
guy?
never a fisherman.
No?
My son took that responsibility.
Did he?
But today at the library presentation,
Yeah.
Betty Anholt talked about the erosion at the lighthouse.
Yes.
You saw that photograph
Yeah.
right there? I've thrown cast nets off that porch and caught mullet.
No
And
way.
I've casted with mirror lures and caught snook
No way.
when it was that badly eroded.
Oh wow,
Really?
yeah, that's all
When was
land
that?
now, isn't it?
That was like 59 or 60. That photo, I took that photograph.
So,
Did
and
they
it was
bring
just
in sand, or is it
No,
just
it's
a
all,
natural?
It's all natural accretion.
It just comes and
Yeah.
goes with the
Oh wow.
winds. Oh. Yeah. So you have the book about the Sanibel Lighthouse, and then you also have written another story about your life and times of living in the lighthouse. And one of my favorite bits of it, when you talk about how your son told you years later that he might have crawled up the outside of the lighthouse.
Oh, he did climb up. Yeah,
on the outside?
on the outside.
No way.
I think most lighthouse kids did that or tried that, but Chuck, he went all the way to the top and the outside, and until they repainted it up where the rain couldn't strike the lighthouse
Yeah.
on some of those I-beams, you could still see his handprints, I believe.
No way.
No way.
And you found out later that he'd actually climbed it.
Yeah, and then during the Saturn launches, we all went up in the lighthouse to watch that. We took a little portable TV up there and stood by.
No
If there
way.
was a hold, and we'd be there when
68 would that have been, or before that?
It was in the 60s,
Yeah,
yeah.
in the 60s.
Wow.
We didn't see the lunar launch.
Oh, so that was
That was
68, so it was
69.
before that. Was it 69? Maybe
69,
69.
yeah.
Okay, so it was
Yeah.
before that,
It
yeah.
was July of 69, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd watch them.
Wow. That's
We've never
crazy.
gotten a chance to go up, although we've always wanted to.
No, we actually took a trip to the sister lighthouse. We have a film about it on the YouTube channel where Max went to school, or not far from there, about an hour west of there. There's the
Port
sister
St.
Cape Sam.
St. Blas, yeah.
Cape San Blast, and we went up that one, and that was all we were doing, trying to imagine what it was like. It was
Yeah, I
exact
saw
same
that.
lighthouse.
I saw that video.
Did you
That
really?
was very well done.
Oh, thank you.
I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good.
Yeah, I can't imagine climbing up the outside and
No.
looking
You
out
have to
from the
be
top.
Young, stupid.
And what was the other story about how, didn't he leave like a transistor radio up there or something? Tell the story about that.
Yeah, unbeknownst to me, the Coast Guard, after they electrified it, gave me a key because one time they forgot to bring their key. So I had a key from like 63 on, and I'd take the kids and my kids and relatives up in the lighthouse occasionally. And the key was always in the same place, and I never noticed it when it was gone or not.
Right.
So, unbeknown to me, my son Chuck and a couple of other island kids would go up top with an old transistor radio with a clothes hanger antenna and listen to their music. Well, it was sometime after this was going on that the manager called me in the office and said, you know anything about a radio and being up top of the lighthouse? We have permission to put our radio there, but you know anything about that? I said, no. And he pulled out, showed me this radio.
Like, I have no idea what that.
No idea how that got there.
That's awesome. Wow. Do you think your kids have good fond memories of growing up?
My daughter does. She's very emotional about the lighthouse. We were interviewed for this new lighthouse
Documentary.
the
Sanibel Historical Society did.
and,
Yeah.
and it brought her to tears
Really?
during a couple of the interviews.
Yeah.
My son, not so much. He's nonchalant about it.
Right. Sounds like a guy.
Yeah.
Stiff upper lip, I guess.
Yeah. So, what's some of your fondest memories of the island? What are you? Have you got any that you'd share with us? Any? I mean, to put you on the spot. I mean, it's
No,
kind
you're
of
not
difficult.
putting me on the spot. Probably
so many.
my fondest memory is starting the sea turtle conservation program that's still ongoing these many years later.
Yeah.
Working with sea turtles.
So tell everybody about that. So it used to be called the Coretta Research, correct?
Coretta Research means loggerhead turtle research. And we started out with donations from the public, and we built a small sea turtle nursery down at Tarpon Bay. We'd take young hatchlings and put them in tanks and try to raise them to give them a better chance of survivability. And we did that 2 years, but the weather really fouled things up, so we disbanded that aspect. And then we started working on the beach, tagging, measuring, weighing, moving eggs, protecting them from encroaching tides. Basically the same thing they're doing today.
But this involves like getting up in like the middle of the night, or
Yeah, we went. Well, part of my initial turtle work, we had law enforcement authority, as I said, and sea turtles were protected. So I patrolled the beach to protect sea turtles, and it just grew from there.
Gotcha.
I was out there anyway.
So you might as well. So at the time, people would eat the sea turtles, I'm guessing, on the island?
People were still eating sea turtles then, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you ever eaten one?
I've eaten sea turtles in restaurants.
Really?
They were commercially available?
No, these were being taken off the beach, the nesting beach.
Wow.
Illegally.
Oh, way.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that was a thing.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. It was
They've got to be heavy.
common all over Florida.
Really?
I'm sure there's a ton of meat from them. I mean, if you were hungry, I mean, there's...
Oh, there's a lot of weight besides meat. The shell is heavy, and the intestines.
Oh, really?
They get meat around the flippers, and
How much does an average one weigh?
about 250 pounds for a female.
So I
The
can't imagine.
heaviest I believe, weighed 345 pounds.
Wow.
So even getting that, I guess, up into a truck or somehow even getting it off the beach was a feat.
They'd tie ropes to them and pull them up off the beach and load them in the trunk of a car or in a boat.
No way.
God, that's
That's
brutal.
crazy.
Oh, wow.
Seems crazy now, but I guess back then it wasn't. It was just a done thing, yeah?
Well, back then, driving on the beach, everybody drove on the beach. It
They
wasn't
did?
illegal.
Really?
Yeah, fishermen, people that might be interested in a turtle, they all drove the beach until the county commission closed driving.
Do you know when that was?
I believe it was 1963 after the causeway opened. I
Really?
believe they finally took some action.
Wow.
Wow.
So you lived through, obviously, the experience of them putting the causeway. I know you talked about it. I went to the library today. You talked about your new book and what your feelings were. Tell everybody what your feelings were, because you lived on the island for, 10 years without any transportation except for a boat.
Yeah,
So
over 10 years, yeah.
So the thought of a causeway coming.
When the causeway issue came to a head, I was president of the local Audubon Society, and we came out as being entirely opposed to a causeway, to a connection. So we were really involved in the battle to stop it, but at the end we, of course, not being politicians or
Right.
hungry for tax money, we lost and the causeway was put in.
I've heard about heated battles. Was that true? Were there heated battles? And
There were arguments.
Yeah.
I cover one argument in the book, a minor argument, but it's funny that the people that many of the people who wanted the causeway, some were old timers. They'd been here since the turn of the century, or their
Really?
families had. They wanted the bridge. Others did not want the bridge. But after the bridge came in, the first ones to leave were the ones that wanted the bridge because they couldn't tolerate the traffic.
Oh, really? Really? Was there traffic right from the start then? As soon as the bridge was put there, was there traffic straight away?
It was 24/7, but it wasn't nothing like it was now.
Right.
Until a few years later, by 1966, we had a water being distributed to households, Island Water Association, and that's what really increased.
Oh, the
development.
water distribution.
Yeah,
really?
water.
So
So not
before
the
that, people
causeway.
were bringing their own bottled water and things like that?
We drank well water.
Oh, okay.
I drank for 5 years. My family drank cistern water.
Which describe what a cistern is for people that don't know.
Cistern's a big water tank that's connected to downspouts.
So basically water coming off your roof, rain coming off your roof.
Coming off your roof.
And would you boil it or
No. We were brave. We should have, but we didn't.
Oh my god!
You wouldn't do it. Would it have any sort of sanitization done to it at all?
Nothing.
No. What would happen? the cistern would maintain. We had one cistern remaining.
Okay.
And the base of that cistern is still standing at the lighthouse.
Right, so you can see it
Quarters
today.
1.
Yeah.
Mine had washed away in 47 during a hurricane. But the cistern would hold water. It was just used for drinking. We had a shallow well for most other uses. And come about the latter part of May, I would have to go inside the cistern, scrub it, clean it, and then once the rain started, it had a diverter valve in the gutter, and I'd turn the diverter and flush out the tank, and then put the bung back in the tank and let that rain hit the roof and run into that cistern all summer long. But there were things on that roof that I couldn't remove.
Like burns.
And it was years later that I told my wife that I actually found dead tree frogs, dead rats,
in the water?
In that cistern.
And you were drinking from it?
And I cleaned it out.
Oh, my goodness.
It was clean when I left.
Right,
Oh,
but a year
goodness.
later.
That's all we had.
But let's just say Charles is 86 now, I think. So
I'll be 86 in 2 days.
Right. So
How'd you know that?
I think it must be good. It must have been good for you.
Yeah, right. There's another story tied to that. One day, I was eating lunch. I went home next door for lunch, of course, and I got a glass of water, and somehow I held it up, and the light hit it just right, and I looked at it, and I could see little filaments floating through it.
Yeah.
I think this is in my book, Sanibel Light, one of my books, and I could see these filaments, and what it was asbestos particles in that water. So I went next door and I showed Tommy. He drank the same water, and we decided to cut it off right then, so we started buying bottled water, and soon after that, the Island Water Association came in.
Right. So I'm sure you're happy about the island water coming.
But we're all a little fireproof.
Oh my god!
Oh my goodness. So
They still have one of those cisterns on Upper Cap. There's next to the gym. There's the.
Oh no, Usepa.
Oh, Usepa. I'm sorry. Yeah, Usepa has still a cypress cistern that's there.
Yeah.
Still not being used. No.
No, I would think so.
No.
Because now with mosquito sprays and
Right.
we drank all of the residue from that.
Were they spraying back then? Or
Yeah, they sprayed back then.
they did? Yeah.
Were the bugs, the mosquitoes, bad back then?
Yes, they were.
Are they worse than they are now?
Very much so.
Well, I think you tell a story of how you literally it was black. Your screens.
It was black. Our bedroom was in the wing of the lighthouse, and as you come into the main part of the house, originally there was a breezeway that ran through there, and there was a window, and that was opposite the bathroom, and that was black with mosquitoes. The screen.
What did your wife think about moving to the island?
She was fine with that because she was raised on Marco Island, and her lifestyle was exactly the same as Sanibel.
Gotcha.
Even worse than what we had on Sanibel. She had no electricity.
Really?
Drank
This was
that
a
water
step
out
up
of
for
a
her.
pitcher pump
Wow.
when she was a baby. Yeah, it was really rough.
Wow.
And Florida was not an easy life for the so-called Florida crackers.
Right, I'm
No.
sure like the advent of water and then, the bug spraying and then air conditioning probably
air
has
conditioning.
quadrupled the population.
Did you have air conditioning of any
No,
sort?
I didn't have any air conditioning until I bought a window unit 67 for the bedroom. That was only so I could sleep late after being on the beach.
No way. Really?
Mm-hmm.
You use air now, though, yeah?
Air conditioning?
Yeah.
Oh, you bet I do.
You're not a diehard. There was
No.
when I first moved here, we went to a get-together around somebody's house. It was actually up by the old schoolhouse theatre, and they had they had a house that had no AC at all, or didn't use it, and it's quite incredible. We were around there at night, and they had very low wattage bulbs and only a couple of them on, and they just had this way of adapting to, not generating heat within the house with electricity, every window being open, and it was actually relatively comfortable. If you changed your use with electricity, and you wouldn't believe how much heat light bulbs give off and all the rest of it. It was actually kind of impressive that you can still do that.
Yeah, I know people today that don't use air conditioning.
Really?
Yeah, it's
No.
tough.
I could never.
No,
we
wouldn't be
could.
me.
No, I'm spoiled.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you probably had some good breezes though at the lighthouse.
There were, if the wind was just right, you could open all the windows and get a nice breeze.
Mm-hmm.
But some nights we would have to get the kids up, put them down in the car, and drive up and down Periwinkle with the windows open so they
Just
could
to cool down.
cool down
Really?
and sleep. The sandflies,
Or no seams, as everybody calls them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. No seams is a new
New term.
that-
Is it used to be
Yeah,
sandflies?
I think some of these people that come here brought it with them from the Carolinas or
All
somewhere.
right.
But
Import.
when my wife was young, they used mosquito bars, mosquito netting to sleep in. And some people, when I came here, may still have used those. I don't know. But
So
that
it's
was
just
common.
you would drape it over you, or
Over
would you
your
have
bed,
it hanging?
over your bed.
No, we
Right.
had that. I remember going to Africa as a kid, and we had those like mosquito nets
Yeah.
that hung around, and I woke up in the middle of the night once, and I was absolutely, you couldn't even see out of
Yeah.
it, and the noise. I remember being absolutely petrified. Yeah, I
Wow.
can't imagine that. Yeah,
No.
That noise will get you.
yeah, the noise of the bugs. You'd think. So, what other wildlife did you? I mean, wildlife must have been roaming free at that time. Gators and all the rest of it. I mean, not just gators, but like lots of stuff. I mean, what were typical visitors to the lighthouse at that time? I presume it was like it was today, surrounded by vegetation and very few people. So, was there a lot more wildlife then?
At the lighthouse itself?
Oh yeah, around that area.
Yeah, there were gopher tortoises, indigo snakes indigos are no longer on the island. Occasional rattlesnake on the point. They're no longer there.
Were they removed?
No, they were all killed.
Oh really?
Either accidentally on the road or purposely by a person.
Oh gotcha.
I think you had a pet manatee too. Is that
I had
right?
a baby manatee that I rescued, yeah.
Right. Tell everybody
Yeah,
that story.
I got a call one day from a man on Captiva that there was a young manatee being washed up against the seawall. So I dashed up, and it was a small manatee, about, 40, 50 pounds. So I put it in the car and came home, and we had used two-way radios then, and I called my wife on the radio and told her that to fill the bathtub, I was bringing home a pet. So I brought it home, put it in the bathtub. And the next day, we called every public aquarium, like SeaWorld wasn't there then, but Miami Sea Aquarium, there was one in Tampa, Marineland, trying to get them to take the manatee, but nobody would take it. I even called California, trying to find a home for that poor thing. And nobody would take it. So we called our vet, went over town and got some bitch's milk, mixed up a formula, and I kept that thing alive for several months.
Really?
Yeah, and it died.
Not in your bathtub though. Or you
No,
would. Were you
There was
transported
a pond, a little brackish water pond that I put it in the daytime.
by the lighthouse,
Yeah.
and then you'd bring it back in at night
I bring
to
it
the
back in at
to
night
the
In
bathtub.
the bathtub.
Just
I
because of
even
the
had a-
cold, or because of the?
No, I was afraid something would happen to it.
Oh, just afraid it would
Yeah, I was
get eaten.
afraid
Yeah.
something would grab it, some person or raccoon or something, and hurt it.
Right.
Oh, I
So
bet
how-
you were sad.
So how big was it?
When it died, it was probably 60 pounds. I've got a picture of it in the Sanibel light. It was black. It was about that long, I guess,
Wow.
under
Wow.
3 feet.
Aw,
Wow.
you
the
tried.
the mother was never found. I mean, probably hit by a boat and killed.
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah, that was a real sad situation. That's when my kids will cry when they think of that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I bet.
But that was the most unique thing that I had.
And you had a few encounters with alligators too.
Yeah, I started the nuisance alligator program on the island, catching alligators in people's backyards and relocating them.
At that time, did they have to be a certain length, or the people were just felt threatened by them, or how?
Well, I never bothered anything that was small. I mean, most of them that I moved were over 8 feet long.
And where would you put them?
I take them out in the refuge.
So still on the island.
Paint their heads. And one 12-footer in 5 days was back at West Rocks.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, it just came.
It didn't work.
It just came straight back.
Yeah.
Really?
So did you bring it back again?
No, we didn't bother it again.
So how did you catch them? Were you personally the one that caught them, or?
Well, that one I caught with a line with a bait on it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And then I remember another one I caught up on Sandcap Road. The alligator wasn't doing anything. It was just sunning itself in their backyard. I mean, give me a break. That happens here.
Right.
And so I said, well, okay, I'll move it. So it had a definite trail that it would leave the water. So I just made up a noose and I hung it on that trail, and it walked into it, tied itself up.
Really?
That was one of the easiest catches I ever had.
Really?
Did you ever have any scares with an alligator?
Have I?
Yeah.
I've been bitten by a couple.
That sounds scary.
Yeah. One was pretty painful.
Yeah.
And then one time I had an 8-footer that Bob Sabatino, he's passed away a few years ago.
He was a local fishing guide.
Right. Great guy. He worked at the refuge part-time. When he wasn't guiding, he'd come to work at the refuge. So we had gone and caught this alligator and had it trussed up in the back of a pickup truck and took it out on the Wildlife Drive to where the tower is located and untied it. And on the left side, going out the left side, that was fresh water back in these days. There was no opening for tidal interchange. So I wanted it to go on the freshwater side, and the alligator decided to go on the right-hand side. So I wanted to change its mind, so I jumped on it. I caught it, and something happened, and it got on top of me, twisted me over, and I had one arm pinned behind my back and the other arm up by my neck, and the alligator is right here. About to shave me.
Or worse.
I hollered to Bob, and he wasn't an alligator man, but he jumped on there and got the alligator off.
No way.
Happened so quick. I think that was 1971, 72.
So you got bitten? Did you get any lasting damage, or just scars, or you just?
No, you can't see them anymore.
No.
What did I get? I got bit on my left hand. It was during the 71 red tide, and I had a friend visiting me, and we had nothing to do, and Jack, manager of Island Inn, Rushworth, called and said, there's an alligator here in the Gulf. So alligators go in the Gulf. It's no big deal. Just leave it alone. It'll do its thing. But I decided I'd catch it to have something to do. So we drive down to Island Inn. One of the guys was the experienced alligator person. The other was just a friend along for the ride. And we get down to Island Inn, and there's about 50 people standing on the beach, and the alligator's out there just coming up and down. And the water's pink-red with red tide. So George Weymouth and I waded out, and we got out just past the sandbar, and it started to get deep, and I was about chest deep in the water. And you could see down through the water, you could see the bottom, and I saw the shape of this alligator.
Just a quick message before we get back to the show. We put a ton of effort into bringing you quality content, so if you would like to help us share our love of the islands, here are several easy ways. Firstly, you can support us on Patreon. You could purchase an island souvenir from our Etsy store. You can metaphorically buy us a coffee, which is an easy way to donate a couple of bucks.
Don't you prefer tea?
Well, I do, kind of. Also, like and subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with all things Sanibel and Captiva. And finally, show some love to our sponsors. Let them know we sent you. All the links are in the description below. Now, back to the episode.
You could see down through the water, you could see the bottom, and I saw the shape of this alligator. And I said, hey, George, he's over here. I've got him. So I straddled him, as I normally would, and I dropped down. and chest deep is about 3.5 foot of water, more maybe. And normally I would just drop down and get him behind the head, throw a scissor grip on him so he couldn't turn, and that was it. But this time, my left hand ended up in his mouth.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh dear.
I think you've had 9 lives, Charles.
Like a vice. So I came up, and George, he's got me by the hand. Go get me a towel. So he goes in and he gets a towel out of the Jeep. And I didn't want anyone to see this in the crowd that was growing.
Right.
So I put in between my legs, clamped him, and took my thumb and index finger in his eyes, and I just kept pressing his eyes, and I told the alligator, either you turn loose or you're going to be seriously damaged. And he did. I've used that technique before, too.
Really?
And
good to keep in mind, I guess.
I said, take him, George. So George took him, and I wrapped the towel around my hand. Nobody could see all the blood because it was pouring blood. When we get in the Jeep, I drove to Island Inn. I washed my hand.
Closer.
And I washed my hand, and it wrapped it up, took the alligator and turned it loose. And the next morning I woke up and went into the bathroom and looked in the mirror, and I had blisters, water blisters all over my body. Face, forehead, chest, arms. And I think it's because that red tide brevetoxin got in my bloodstream because of that open wound. It's the only thing I can
yeah.
think.
Oh, my gosh.
It's terrible.
You never went to the hospital?
No, I never went to the hospital, no. I just lived with it, and in a few days it was dry, but I kicked myself for not getting a photograph of it.
Could be in the book.
Yeah.
It would have been great content.
That time with Bob is when I basically gave up alligators.
That was it.
But today, in the community where I live, we have alligators, and I'm the alligator response coordinator. I have a state permit. An alligator can't be taken out of there unless I okay it. So I'm still working with alligators.
Wow. So do they know why? I mean, I fly a paramotor, and I was flying down Fort Myers Beach one day, and I could see all the fish and wildlife on the edge of the big crowd. I was probably 300-400 feet in the air, so it was a bit hard to see. And then I looked out in the water and it was unusually empty, and I could see a gator swimming down along the beach. Fish and wildlife were there, and they dispatched it with a triple hook and a fishing rod pretty quickly by snarling it up. But I've heard that they'll go in the water to lose parasites. Is that true? Do you know anything, or is that a wives' tale?
I don't know that to be a fact. It could be
in the water. Sorry, the salt water is what I meant to say. Yeah,
right. It's mostly for feeding.
Is it? They do feed in the Gulf?
They feed in the Gulf. Mm-hmm. During the red tide periods, they feed. They can't stay there long. They don't have salt glands to rid their system of salt.
Oh.
So they can only stay there a short time, then they have to return to fresh water.
And I think when you came here, people would feed the alligators? Is that it was not illegal at the time?
They didn't at first, but it's a trend that slowly started. Over at Palm Lake on West Gulf Drive, there was a retired railroadman there, and he used to fish at the fishing pier at the Lighthouse, so I befriended him. And I'd go to his house, and he'd take a large can of canned dog food in a big scoop spoon, go down to the water's edge and say, Wally, Wally. And this 8-9 foot alligator comes streaming across Palm Lake.
Wow.
Right up out of the water and take that.
Wow.
It was like his
Ted,
pet.
Ted, you've got to stop that. You're going to get hurt.
Yeah. You did it?
So.
And I heard that people would feed them marshmallows or something?
Yeah.
Why marshmallows?
Because they float and they can see them easily.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a big fad around Bailey's and Sundial.
Yeah.
It was done regular.
So were you part of the, I guess, the law that actually banned
the team that stopped
the alligator feeding?
When I was on the city council, I wrote the alligator
ordinance,
anti-feeding alligator
So now it's a
ordinance.
$500 fine if you
Can be up to that.
Up to
And since then, it's become a state law.
It all started
So
here.
we're one of the first here to do it?
Yeah, we were the first.
Really?
Thanks
the
to
first.
Charles.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What year was that?
I think the ordinance was 78, I believe. I was on the council from 74 to 1980.
Right. So let's talk about so you started the turtle research. You did the alligator ordinance. You started the Audubon Society.
No, I didn't start.
But you were president of the Audubon Society. What else?
I'm the last surviving member of the founding board of Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation.
Wow.
And city council.
I was a member of the first city council. I'm one of two survivors. Portergoss and I are the survivors.
Right. And the city council was formed when Sanibel became its own city.
City in 1974.
And you were the first. I would say you have your fingers on a lot of Sanibel.
I did a lot of things. Some things I shied away from and some things I didn't.
Yeah.
Fishing and alligator wrestling later in life.
I'm surprised you weren't a fisherman. Just didn't take to it.
Oh, I fished a little bit, not
but
like some people. Yeah.
Right, some people are out every single day.
If the fish were hitting, like snuck at the point at the lighthouse, I'd fish for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'd never had the patience to sit in a boat and fish.
You say you're surprised. We own a fishing boat. We live on the water. We go out. We bought all the gear. We've been out, like me and Max have been out many times, and I don't know, something's just not for us.
We've been out once fishing.
Well, we've talked about going out many
We've
times.
talked about it. You're right.
Yeah, and it's just
all that
horses for courses.
And an artist too, correct?
I don't know if I'm an artist, but
tell us a little bit about the Calusa. Do you have a collection of Calusa
implements?
Yeah. Yes, when I started to write my first novel, or attempted to write a novel, the title is The Calusan. I made my character, the main character in the book, who is a Calusa Indian warrior, but he's also an artisan. He creates weapons, religious artifacts for the Calusa people. So I wanted to get myself in the mindset, so I decided I would create those things that he made. And right now they're at the library until I think the 2nd of April. And then I just learned that they'll be accepted as a gift from me at the Sanibel Historical Village.
Oh, fantastic.
Down the road sometime.
Right.
Yeah, fantastic.
Hopefully a long time.
Long time
they'll
away.
be in my office on the wall.
Right.
So you made them just as an experiment to see how they were made, or just...
No, I just wanted to get a feel. I wanted them.
Right, okay.
Myself.
Okay.
I envied these artifacts that were actually found on Marco back in 1895, so I wanted to recreate them with my head in the place where this young Indian would be.
Gotcha.
To see what I could produce.
Right.
Right.
Wow. Did the novel ever appear?
Yes.
Yeah,
what's the name of
The Calusan.
The Calusan. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought you said at the start that the book you attempted to write. No, so
yeah, well,
did finish it.
Yeah, I finished it, but it's an attempt at a novel.
Right.
It takes place here. It starts out here on Sanibel, and it's mostly about Sanibel, Ponderosa. Starts out in the cattle industry back in the 1880s.
So how many books have you written in total?
Can you remember?
I think this is 18.
18, really?
This one just came out.
And let's talk about this now, because it's been sitting here. Laurie and yourself, you've been to a meeting this morning. Where was it at?
That was at the library, where Betty Henholt, which is the co-author of the book, and Charles gave a chat about the book, introduced the book to anybody that was there, and then we could ask questions afterwards. So it was a lively discussion about, everybody had questions all over the board, from mosquitoes to red tide to anything that they're interested in.
And Betty Anhol was on the podcast a little while back, so you can check out that episode.
Right.
And so it's a huge book with lots of pictures and all about the landing strips, maps, and really worthwhile checking out. And where can it be bought?
Most of the stores on Sanibel
Macintosh
have
books,
it. Macintosh
jeans.
and jeans will have it, I think, soon.
Mm-hmm. I know it's at Macintosh because I saw it the other day.
Mm-hmm. And of course on the internet,
Yep.
Amazon.
Oh, it's on Amazon. Once upon
it'll
the island
soon,
known as Sanibel.
It'll soon be an ebook.
Awesome. So make sure you check it out, and yeah.
Yeah, for
Sounds
anyone
fun.
that loves Sanibel, we dedicated it to the people that love Sanibel. That's
Yeah,
how-
can you read that dedication, Charles? Because I read that and I was like, wow, that's...
It's dedicated. It's for the people who have grown to love Sanibel Island and want to know her full story.
There you go. Perfect.
And it's the full story from 1513 until probably 1980. We had to have
Yeah, end
phase
date.
it out. Yeah,
Right.
but there'll never be another book like this written about the islands with this much detail and personal anecdotes and
Mm-hmm.
experiences. And
So what was your relationship with Betty Anholt? I mean, obviously she's a historian. I know that much,
right.
but
Well, Betty and Jim Anholt used to operate the Standard gasoline station
okay,
down on the corner of Beach Road.
right.
That station is now. And Betty was interested in wild things, and she worked in shell shop and stuff like that. But Jim, her husband, became an early member of my sea turtle organization.
Okay,
I guess it was in the late 60s.
okay.
And that's how I
So you've
met them.
known each other for years and,
then-
years.
One of the other young couples on the island, I guess.
Well, they're a little bit younger
Are they?
than us, yeah.
Gotcha.
Young whippersnappers.
Yeah.
And Betty's written many books too, so
Yes,
I
she
guess
has.
it was a natural thing for you guys to get together.
Yeah,
And
she was a perfect person to work with.
Mhm.
That's our second book. We did one for History Press called Protecting Sanibel and Captiva Islands, which has been very successful.
Mhm.
But it's nothing like the detail in this book.
yeah, I couldn't believe it when I saw
I
it.
tell stories in here that I've never told before.
Wow,
That's awesome.
I just got it today, so I will be reading tonight. For sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Very cool.
Wow, there's so many.
Yeah, so many different aspects of the
I
island.
wanna know, when you came here, so it used to be the Sanibel Refuge, which is now the J. N. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge. Was the road there, like the
The drive?
the
No.
drive?
No.
Gotcha.
The only land that the refuge had, we leased the Lighthouse Point from the Coast Guard, and we owned the Bailey Tract on Tarpon Bay Road.
Okay.
Oh, so it wasn't actually the Ding Darling.
There were 2,000 acres in the mangroves that became the main part of the refuge today that we had under lease from the state of Florida. And then when Darling died in 1963, the people pushed to change the name of the refuge in 1967.
Right.
And those people that pushed to change the name became the Sanibel
Captiva
Conservation
Foundation. And when was the drive put in?
It was started in 1965. It took about 3 years to complete.
And I think it was one man with the drag line. Is that?
Yeah, two started out, and then turned out to be just Colin Moore that went down one side and came back the other.
So he would just pile up dirt from one side, the other
Yeah,
side, and then just keep moving along, right?
He'd cover bush beer cans.
What does that mean?
What do you mean? That was
We used to take him on Fridays, a whole 6-pack of bush beer.
Right.
And the story was that it was beer cans from one end to the other.
as he was digging.
As he was digging.
Well, gosh, he needed something to keep himself
That's right.
occupied.
I can imagine what it was like, 8-10 hours a day sitting in an air-conditioned dragline cab, hot machinery.
Yeah,
But he loved it.
It wasn't originally for the wildlife drive, though, was it? It wasn't.
Well, it was
Was it twofold for mosquitoes, too?
Mosquito Control, Wayne Miller, director, wanted to keep his equipment working. And Tommy Wood, the manager, wanted access for the public into the refuge. So it was twofold. It was to dig large impoundments to control mosquitoes and provide public access.
So how does water control mosquitoes? Because I would think the opposite.
Salt marsh mosquito is different than most mosquitoes. It lays its eggs in usually moist soil, like when there's a spring tide that withdraws, that recedes, they lay their eggs in that area, or in the Sanibel slough when it's dry in the dry season. And then when the tide comes back the next month or rainfall starts, those eggs hatch.
Gotcha.
So by flooding them, keeping
the water
on them,
there.
they can't lay eggs.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Huh.
Oh, I thought they were. No, I didn't realize they had to have no water.
Yeah. So there's no water to lay the eggs, but then the water comes up, and that's what makes the eggs hatch. So if you keep it flooded, that's what stops the.
They can't lay the eggs, and the eggs can't hatch.
All right.
Gotcha. Yeah. Incredible.
Interesting. Yeah.
So just going back quickly to the turtle, was the turtle preservation organisation that you set up? Was that your idea, or was it? I know you were a founding member of it.
No.
What brought it on?
Brought it on. I mentioned Ding Darling. I think I mentioned it this morning about having coffee with him and Tommy Wood. During the conversation, Tommy told him that I was interested in turtles. So then Ding Darling went off on a tirade about the turtles here needed help, the sea turtles.
He did, really? Yeah.
And he sort of pushed me to do something. So I just took off from there.
Really? How was Ding Darling? I've never met anybody that's actually spoken to the man. How was he?
There's very few left.
Yeah.
I was working on the flagpole at the Lighthouse, and I think I just repainted the base or something. And a car pulled in. The road to the Lighthouse was on the Gulf side back in those days, and the car pulled up and parked in front of the office. And this elderly man got out and got his cane. And he started up the stairs, but then he saw me, so he walked over to me. And he said, "You must be the new man." He said, "I'm Ding Darling." I was only like 22 years old. And I told him, yes, I knew about him. Tommy had talked about him, and I knew that he lived on Captiva and about the cartoons he had done. He did one in particular that I loved. It was in defense of the key deer in the Florida Keys. It was a cartoon of people burning and chasing the deer into the water and clubbing them.
Oh, really?
And he came out of retirement and did that one to help the key deer. But it was a great cartoon. And then he starts talking about, I understand you like snakes and turtles. I said, yes, sir. And he said, I just saw a beautiful indigo snake cross the road by the community church. Those things will never survive. This traffic will kill them. And he was right.
Really?
So then they later called me upstairs for coffee. And he sort of pushed me to do something for sea turtles, and I took it serious. And did.
And thank goodness you did.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Did a lot of good.
What a legacy to have that, I mean, just seeing the volunteers in the morning, I'm out quite a lot taking pictures at sunrise, and every morning there's people out there doing your work that you started. So, hats off to you, man. That's awesome.
We did it all at night originally.
Did you really?
Patrolling.
Really?
To catch the animal and tag it and gather, body data on it.
So they don't tag them anymore?
I think they still do. I think they have a team that comes here in the summertime, and they do tag turtles, and they put satellite transmitters on them and more advanced technology. Mm-hmm. I mean, I left in 92, so
a while ago.
30 years ago.
Right.
Wow. So
now they have the stake. So if you haven't been to Sanibel or come here, if you see the yellow stakes, that's how the Turtle Patrol goes, and they will set up like a little barrier. And then
put chicken wire in the sand, stop the coyotes digging and predators digging, raccoons.
What is a predator to the turtles? Is that raccoons
to the eggs,
and to the eggs?
Raccoons and coyotes, sand crabs, people in some areas.
Mm.
Did you see was there a big decline in turtles when you started this, or was it a preventative measure, or both?
We started monitoring nests and started in '69, and the low point was 71. I think there were only 70 nests on Sanibel, not including Captiva. and now it's 600.
No way.
Yeah, 500,
Really?
600. Unbelievable.
That's incredible.
Amazing.
We only had one species nest here, and that was the loggerhead. And since I left, they've had leatherback turtles, Kemp's Ridleys,
Kemp's-Ridleys,
green
which
turtles.
Yeah.
incredibly rare, are back
Yeah.
again, aren't
Yeah.
they? Yeah.
And they come back every year, or is it every other year? Do you know?
Most every other year.
Every other-
Some every year.
And how long do they live for? I mean, they can live for a long, long time, can't they?
Yeah, probably 75, 80 years. That's just a guess,
Yes.
comparing it with other turtles.
Right.
Their survival, is really not good when they're young.
Right.
But if
Yeah.
they're lucky enough to survive to get full maturity, weigh 200-300 pounds, they have a good chance of just living until they wear out.
And do they keep coming back even after they? I mean, the females stop laying eggs, or do they still come back? Do they still, or not?
There's no way to monitor that unless they're doing that with
Tagging.
telemetry, satellite telemetry.
Yeah.
Right.
And at the time, were there lights on the beach? Were you part of that too? How the condos?
Yeah, the anti-light movement started during my time,
right.
and we worked with people. There were no rules and regulations about it at first, but we worked with people trying to get them to turn them down.
Right.
And when was there ordinance introduced about the turtles on the island? I mean, were there bylaws put in after you started the program?
No,
I mean, not with the lighting, but just in general, like.
no, there was a general ordinance that protected turtles on Sanibel, but I don't recall anything sea turtles specifically.
Right. It was just more a case of awareness and letting people know what's
Right.
going on. And,
Right. And now you have to use a red covering over your flashlight
Flashlights.
during turtle nesting season.
yeah. Awesome, man. That's incredible that you're a part of that. It's incredible. Absolutely mind blown by that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Max, have you got any questions for us?
Oh yeah. All right.
So here
Charles,
comes
we got
trivia time.
Some
Charles.
trivia coming. I will admit they are questions taken from your book, so you may be you may have some.
So you better get these right.
Yeah. You may have an
That's
advantage.
not fair, Max.
Well,
Hold on, let me have a quick look. Hold on.
I only wrote half the book.
these are from the Sanibel Light book.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, I read the book, so maybe I'll have an advantage too.
Yeah, pull that
All right.
off. That's it. You got it.
All right.
I believe this
Okay.
is the first line of the book. That a jewel of an island existed in Florida's southwest coast was broadcast to the world by the logs of Spaniard Francisco Hernandez de Cordova in what year?
Can you say that one more time?
That a jewel of an island existed in Florida's southwest coast was broadcast to the world by the logs of Spaniard Francisco Hernandez de Cordova in what year?
So Francisco wrote something
In his logs about Sanibel.
In what year?
Yes.
Can we see the book?
Yeah, I wrote that in 1998.
I didn't realize it was that long ago.
Cordova.
Okay.
Trying to think what year he was here.
I didn't know.
No. Can we get
It's like the first official
a line of his
line,
book?
no, the first
Sentence?
official documentation that Sanibel had been discovered.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Nick. You first.
1786.
1598.
1580.
Charles, you're the closest. It was 1517. 1517.
Oh,
I missed it a
wow.
lot.
Oh, yeah. But you still
You still win.
The
You still
point.
get the point
You
'cause you
still
were
get the
closest.
point. So that doesn't.
All right. Charles
One
takes
for
the lead.
Charles.
All right. This is a Lighthouse question. In 1883, Congress established the Sanibel Island Lighthouse Reservation. How much money was allotted for this project in 1883?
I think I know this one.
I was surprised by this.
You were.
I was.
What to build the lighthouse or the?
The land and then to build the lighthouse, yes. The compound, I guess it was called, maybe. Yeah?
All right. You're first, Nick.
$17,650.
I put 50,000.
50,000.
50,000 is correct.
Yes,
Oh,
Charles.
That
Woohoo.
seems like a lot. I thought
Yeah, for back
Yeah,
then.
for back then.
when you consider that the original lens that was used in that lighthouse in 1884 has a market today of over $1 million
No way.
Gosh,
as value.
Really?
that's crazy.
Why? Just because of the technique to make it?
Yeah, so expensive to make.
Really?
Wow.
Is it still in existence?
It's gone. We don't know what happened to the first one.
But the second one is at the Sanibel. Which one is
No,
at the Sanibel
The second one is gone, and we don't know what happened to it. The third one is at the Sanibel Historical Village.
Really?
Really?
I wonder where they
That's
went.
crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The
So
Coast Guard transferred them to other light stations, so
Unsure.
I've never been able to find out what happened to them.
Oh.
Oh.
The
If you wanna-
Florida Lighthouse Association hasn't either.
Huh.
So
if you want to see the third one, check it out at the Sanibel Historical Museum and Village.
All right, next question.
All right, Charles, you're still in the lead with 2.
The lighthouse was not always completely brown. What color was the top of the lighthouse prior to it being repainted? I did not know it wasn't always brown. It's always been brown to me, I must admit.
With speckles.
white speck.
White speckles.
Yeah. Ospreys, thanks to the ospreys. Okay.
I
Next.
put white.
I put black.
Black.
Black is correct.
Charles.
In the same way that Cape San Blas is black on the top.
Okay.
It's just
Excellent. I'm
like,
doing awesome.
They changed it, and
do you have any idea why they decided to change it?
I don't have any idea.
No?
And why was it black? Any particular reason just to make it stand out more, they thought?
You would
or-
think that
It
wouldn't
was-
make it.
It was just a published day mark that they published in the light list.
Oh, to say the colours
so
of
you
it.
could identify it by its color.
Oh, gotcha.
So the top was black and the bottom was brown?
Brown.
And now
They
they
made it all
changed it
brown.
all to brown.
Huh.
Yeah, they did it. They did it years and years and years ago, and it's changed colors since then one time too.
Is it?
Yeah,
What, a lighter brown?
I've forgotten.
Darker
I
later.
mean, you read columns in the light list, and they have the dates of certain things occurred at the lighthouse, as published in the light list, and you can see the difference.
So the difference. Oh.
Has it always had the same flash? What,
Characteristic? No, it's different.
why did they change? Just because
Well, the
of
original
the way?
lens revolved, and it had bullseye prisms as part of the circumference of the lens. And as one of these bullseyes came into your line of view, it would create a flash. And it was a flash every 2 minutes. It moved very slowly.
Oh.
So it took 2 minutes from one bullseye to the next bullseye.
Gotcha. And then what is it?
Now
No,
it's like 10 and 3, I think, something like that. Very quick flash.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
You'd have to that wouldn't be very easy for navigating, would it?
For
If you-
every
It's
2
hard
minutes.
to find.
Two
With
mi- 2
all
minutes,
the lights
yeah.
of Cape Coral and Fort
Yeah.
Myers Beach, you can't. I'm a sailor. I used to sail offshore, and I could never find it.
and you live there.
You can find your way home.
All right, our last question.
So
right,
once
hit me.
again, what are the scores? 3 to Charles.
2 to 0.
Oh, just be quiet,
Thank
please.
you.
That's
All right,
I'm
final
gonna catch
question.
You, Charles. Watch out. Here
The
it
longest known light keeper was Henry Shanahan, who served for how many years?
I'm
comes.
leaving.
Once again in your book, Charles. Let's
I'm
see.
leaving.
That he wrote over 20 years ago.
Right.
23 years ago. It may be unfair.
I've revised it.
Have you?
The new one has an extra chapter.
Really?
Oh, it does. I didn't know that. Oh, I think I'm wrong.
I think I'm wrong.
I think you're wrong.
Why would
too.
I be? Why would I be right? I haven't got one right yet.
Do you want to go first then?
No, I don't.
I'll go first. I put 42. I think that's probably way too many.
Charles?
I said 17, but I don't think that's right. I think it's 22.
I said
Okay.
26.
Dad gets his first point. It was 32 years from 1892 to 1924.
Wow. Wow.
I was pretty close.
Wow.
10 off.
Yeah, Dad was much closer.
Yeah.
I think he was an assistant part of that time.
Was he?
So maybe Charles is right.
Technicality.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, Charles still wins with a 3.
Yes.
So
Charles takes the lead.
Yeah.
Shockingly, I
Right.
took the information from him.
Exactly. We don't have the bell, Max.
Oh, we don't have the bell.
Oh, ding, ding. And Laurie started
Darn, I've
actually
missed it so
selling the
much.
bells, and
Go
she
get
hasn't
one,
even
Max.
got one.
There, it's on my desk while we finish up
Dad, close
talking.
this out.
Yeah. So.
Can you come back, Charles? We have a lot more questions.
Yeah, we got lots and lots of questions. It's an absolute honour to have you on. It really is incredible. A walking history book, and
And a
literally-
memory like a steel trap.
So far, so good.
too.
so far so
It
good.
was
he
that
says.
cistern water, I think.
Yeah, that's what it'll do.
And the
It
asbestos.
kept you sprightly. So here we go. It's tradition that you ring the bell. The winner rings the bell. So give us a mighty good. There we go.
Oh, come on.
ding, 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 ding. There we go. Perfect.
That's a quiet bell.
Perfect. And Laurie is starting to sell those on an Etsy store, so check those out if you would like to purchase one. It says Sanibel, please. And it has a little shell on top.
Little sand dollar.
Yeah. So
That's nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks very much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you. Thanks for making the effort to come out, Charles. It's been a long time in the making.
Yeah.
We've been wanting to have you on here for you've probably been our number one requested guest. Well, we've tried to get you. That you've been the one we've wanted the most over these last year. So thank you for making our day and
And
coming
we would
on.
definitely love to have him back. If anybody has any questions that they want to
Yeah.
pose to Charles, that we can come
Go
back
on
and have him
the go on
around
the
too.
forum there and post some questions. And I think you are a member of our forum. I believe. I think you are, aren't you?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
And
yeah.
you have your own Facebook page about the Sanibel Lighthouse.
The Sanibel Lighthouse. That's right.
So
Yeah.
everybody can go on Facebook and find the Sanibel Lighthouse Facebook page. And Charles shares. I'm sure you have tons of pictures from you. Share some of the pictures
I've-
on there.
Actually, been preoccupied with this book for the past nearly a year.
Right.
Oh,
so
sure.
you're going to go
my
back to it.
Fantastic. Any thoughts you'd like to share future generations that are coming to the island? Any words of wisdom about the island that you'd like to share? And any message that you'd like to put out there?
How many questions was that?
That was a lot of questions.
Oh, I'm giving him variants.
Welcome. You come to Sanibel. Welcome. You can learn all about the island and more with the new book that Betty and Holt and I have produced. I think you'll find it just crammed full of very useful information if you're interested in these islands.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thanks again, and hopefully we'll get you back on one day soon. All right. Thanks, guys. Okay, and a quick shout out to our supporters. Without our supporters, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. Bailey's General Store, Doc Ford's Rum Bar and Grill, Spoondrift Island Bowls, Crafty Ladies, GatorBites, Taylor Nail, Priscilla's of Sanibel, Coco y Cabana, Suncatchers Dream, and Sanibel Carts. And don't forget to reach out to Captains for Clean Water, one of our favourite island charities. Thanks very much. See you on the next one.